Hello, BookTube. But before I ascend, let's have a book haul. So the books I've brought in June have been pretty interesting, and not quite what I expected. Um, I do have an extra book I ordered. The or I got in the Gourmet today, the sequel to Gourmet, edited by Ruth Reichl. But as it's a cookbook, it's already it's in the kitchen. It's on the cookbook shelf. So yeah, I'm not going to haul it over here to show you, but I have about 13 other books to show you. So let's get on with it. So the first, my first idea when I was thinking about the books I wanted to buy for June, I was leaning towards science fiction and fantasy. I haven't picked any up in a while, and so I was getting a hankering to get some more in. Um, as you will see, it didn't exactly pan out that way, but I did start off with a science fiction book. This is Universe 10, edited by Terry Carr. I first learned about this book from Steve Donahue. He last year when he did his epic library tour, had an edition of this book in his collection, and he praised it quite a bit. So I'm like, maybe it would be something I should look into. So I added it to my Alibris wish list, and it's sat there for quite a few months, and I finally got around to ordering it. And I'm quite excited to check it out and read it. Hopefully not too distant future. Also, so from Universe 10, still wanting to get some more science fiction and fantasy, I had to order some presents for my nephews. My youngest nephew's birthday's this weekend, and my older nephew's birthday's in early August. And so I decided to bundle their presents together. Not as a single thing, but just order the presents at the same time. And while I was at it, I'm like, maybe I ought to order something from a book from Amazon. So I did, and that book is The House in the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune. It's I want to say it's a contemporary comedy fantasy that deals with an orphanage that teaches or that specializes in children with unique abilities, and trying to protect these kids from government agencies that would not treat them kindly. I think is what it's about. And how the kids in the orphanage and their caretakers and a hapless bureaucrat kind of form a found family. I haven't gotten around to it yet because I tend to like to haul the books before I start reading them, but looking forward to getting around to it. Now, so that's pretty much where science fiction and fantasy buying stopped this month. I am a judge for the BookTube prize this round, and as usual, there's one book I have to pick up. And so I was looking around, and I saw a used copy on Alibris itself. So basically, for those of you who don't use Alibris is a used book aggregate website. It's basically, it brings together a lot of independent and smaller used book chains, and they basically list their books, and then you can buy and sell or buy books from them. I don't think you can sell. I think that's different, but anyway. But within that aggregate, there's also Alibris itself, and they'll sell new books that are discounted quite significantly. And then you also, if you buy $39 worth of with them, shipping will be free. So I found a copy of Underland by Robert Macfarlane on Libris, and then I went to go check, and Libris had a copy of what I'm about to show you. And having made a vow that if I saw a copy for a good price from a Libris, that I was not going to wait, I was going to jump on it. So I ended up ordering and getting the Napoleonic Wars, A Global History by Alexander Mikaberidze. Hoping I pronounced Mikaberidze or Beridze right. So anyway, I have wanted this book for months, and I almost bought it around the same time I picked up Post Ball, Post Square by Christina Spohr, but I didn't, and it went kind of ended up getting bought by somebody else, and I'm like, oh, so annoyed, but found a copy, and I'm so very happy to have this. Now, at the time, I should have picked up the Napoleonic Wars and Underland, but I ended up picking up two books that I saw when I visited the Verso website and thought they were very interesting, and put them on my Libris wish list because I saw two copies there that were pretty good, and again I could get free shipping, and so I went and picked them up instead. Revolution in the Air by Max Elbaum, which sounds very, very interesting. And excuse me, Insurgent Empire. Oh wait, okay. So it's Revolution in the Air, 60s radical turn to Lenin, Mao, and Che. And then Insurgent Empire, Anti-Colonial Resistance and British Descent by Priyamvada Gopal, which is a counter to Niall Ferguson's book on the British Empire. I'm blanking on what it's called right now, but anyway, and I read some about this and thought it was fascinating. So let me read the back of this one. Insurgent Empire recasts the histories of the major anti-colonial struggles: the Indian Mutiny, the Morant Bay Uprising in Jamaica, the Urabi Rebellion in Egypt, and the Mau Mau insurgency in Kenya, and shows that Britain's colonial subjects were not merely victims of empire, but also agents whose resistance both contributed to their own liberation and shaped British ideas about freedom. And I'm so very looking forward to reading this. Now, noticing there is a book I should have bought that I didn't in that batch. So the next week I went and I did another Libris order, and this time Underland by Robert Macfarlane was one of those books. As this is for the Booker Prize, I have it, and I will be reading it this Friday, or well, this weekend and into next week. Spoiler alert, which I will go into that in a few hours. But anyway, yeah. And then I went ahead and picked up the Hapsburg Empire, A New History by Pieter M. Judson. I think I saw a copy on Steve Donahue's channel. I think he has a copy. But I'm really fascinated about the Hapsburg Empire, and when I saw this book, I'm like, yes, I'm going to get it. Next, I have a poetry collection to finally... so for those of you who don't know, I used to have a larger poetry collection than I thought I did. And I've since gotten rid of a lot of my poetry collections. It's now a very sparse, pathetic poetry collection, but I am looking into expanding it back, getting the books I used to have back, and then adding some more. And this poet is one whose work I've wanted in my collection for some time, and I've never gotten around to it, but I did, and I'm so happy to have the collected poetry of Nikki Giovanni, 1968 to 1998, in my collection. Nikki Giovanni, though I've never had any of her work, I've always checked it out from the library, but she is one of my favorite poets, and I'm very happy to have the collected poetry in my collection. And to round out this round of this particular order, I picked up Stony the Road, Reconstruction, White Supremacy, and the Rise of Jim Crow by Henry Louis Gates, Jr. And I'm quite looking forward to reading this. Let's read the back. The abolition of slavery in the aftermath of the Civil War is a familiar story, as is the Civil Rights Revolution that transformed the nation after World War II. But the century in between remains a mystery. If emancipation sparked a new birth of freedom in Lincoln's America, why was it necessary to march in Martin Luther King Jr.'s America? In Stony the Road, Henry Louis Gates Jr., one of our leading chroniclers of the African American experience, seeks to answer that question through the prism of the war of images and ideas that have left an enduring racist stain on the American mind. And finally, I had another order from a Libris. This time it is 3 fiction and another history. So let's start on the fiction. Sarah Burt, Alamo House. Let's read a bit back. This is one of the books I want to read for my America 20 project. So let's read the back. The sorority sisters of Alamo House at the University of Texas may be at comic odds with each other, but at least they have one thing in common. They all hate the fraternity rats across the street, the Sigma Upsilon Kappas, aka the Sucks. But amid the collegiate turmoil, Alamo House is also the scene of an extraordinary endearing friendship among 3 women. Mary Jo, hilariously confused about life and love, but determined to get both right. Fairine, flushed with freedom after her escape from Baptist Waco. And Collie, party girl and self-proclaimed guide to the ways of the world. Together they embark on a roller coaster of escapades that changes them all and galvanizes Alamo House into an all-out counterattack against the Sucks. The result is infectious, side-splitting fun, sure to convince everyone that Mary Jo, Collie, and Fairine are the best Southwestern mixer since tequila, lime, and salt. I will not mention that bit about Waco. Also picked up The Namesake by Jhumpa Lahiri. No. Yeah. So quite looking forward to this. Yeah, this again is for the America 20 project. There's no sort of synopsis on the back, so I can't really tell you much about it, but I will try to get to this pretty quick. Not for the America 20 project. This is one that's more of a revisit project I want to have going at some point. But a book that I've wanted ever since, and that is Michael Cunningham's A Home at the End of the World. So I had a bind-up copy of edition of A Home at the End of the World and Flesh and Blood a few years ago. And I read Home at the End of the World and loved it. Absolutely loved it. And I ended up getting rid of that copy. I have no idea why. I've regretted it ever since, and I'm quite happy to have this edition. I have a copy of Home at the End of the World back. And I'm probably going to try to get at least Cunningham's like 90s, like late 80s, 90s, very early 2000s work. Because I now want to read Flesh and Blood and The Hours, which I used to have, but I got rid of too. And I will mention that at the end of this video, because I have a question I want to ask all of you. So finally, the last book I picked up in June, officially. I mean, there's obviously a few more days left, and there's a slim chance I could get another book in, but I'll talk about that in a bit. But so the last book is A Modern History of Japan from Tokugawa Times to the Present by Andrew Gordon. So if you watch Steve Donohue's channel, he periodically does a Q&A. And in one of my Q&As, I asked him if he could recommend any Japanese history. I'm getting yen, might be a bad term. I really want to read some Japanese history, and I'm not entirely sure where to go. So I kind of saw an edition of this one with from the same seller that had Alamo House, The Namesake, and Home at the End of the World, and I jumped at it. I don't think I've ever read this before. I know there's one that I've read, but I'm quite looking forward to reading Japan, Modern History of Japan. So, yeah, and hopefully adding more and finding like really good histories of Japan. I want both like big bolt to nuts or soup to nuts histories, as well as more targeted histories. So anyway, now let's see if I can do this and do this long enough to where I can get a thumbnail from this. And if not, yeah, I might scream. So these are the books I got in. Okay. As much fun as it would be to like have these books knock me over, yeah, I'm not going to, but so yeah, so that's been my June book haul. As far as July's going, I can tell you right now, it is going to be very, very ancient and very, very history oriented. Because I have a book depository order coming out, and so they should be, I'm thinking at the earliest late next week, and then I have 2 pre-orders, both of which are ancient history. So yeah, it's going to be a very ancient history heavy period. I don't know quite what else I'm going to get in. If I'm going to order, if I'm going to have any themes or anything like that. We'll have to wait and see. Oh yeah, so I mentioned a Home at the End of the World that I had a previous edition that was a bind up with Flesh and Blood. I recently found a list that I made of the books I had from 10, 16 years ago. I mean, it's not complete. I know there are books I have that I had at that time that aren't on the list. So I know there are books that there's at least a page missing, and I've looked for it and I haven't found it. So I don't know if it's totally missing or what. So I was thinking if maybe you'd be interested, I could film a nostalgic tour of the books I had, even though I don't have many of them anymore, or if I should try to find the missing page for a more complete look, or if I should just focus on like the books I don't have anymore that I would like to re-add or not, or just leave it be and not touch it. I did film one or two versions of this, and I did film one yesterday that I was thinking about uploading, but it was like 35 minutes. So I'm like, do you really want to watch me talk for 35 minutes? So let me know down in the comments if you would like to see this video, and I can go ahead and upload it either this weekend or maybe my Monday video. But until then, BookTube, and until I see you in a few hours with my weekly reads, I have got to catalog these and put them up. So, wish me luck, BookTube, and I will see you again in a few hours. Also, stay safe. We are still in a pandemic, and yeah, safety is key. Or staying safe is key. My back. Thank you, BookTube.